K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. The leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the...
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those on the take. Attorney General's lying even while...
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
All right, folks. Well, it's Tuesday. It's no longer Monday. Can I get an amen from anybody out there? I'm just saying. I don't know about you, but I really... Now that I work Monday through Friday at the day job, I really don't much care for Mondays at all. The job I had before, I actually liked Mondays because they used to be my Friday, so this would have been my Saturday. It's an interesting thing to do when you realize that, you know, everybody else is groaning and complaining about Mondays, and you're like, woohoo, it's my Friday. But yeah, I don't have that luxury anymore, which is both good and bad. I mean, I have to admit, I haven't had a job in a long time where I had Monday through Friday weekends off, so it's been kind of cool. Really, not that, just to be honest, I really have weekends off, because if I'm not working there, I'm working here. But anyway, a couple of really, really big things. Well, one really big one, and another one that we kind of touched on a little bit yesterday that I'm still crossing my fingers and everything else on. We broke 8,000 plays last night, folks. I know to some of the folks that have, you know, are on big time radio, 8,000 plays may not seem like much, but when you're doing things on the internet and there are actually hundreds of thousands of different live broadcasts and podcasts you can tune into, the fact that we have been listened to over 8,000 times, I just want to give everybody a great big thank you very much, especially all of my core listeners. You know who you are, you rail riders, you. Thank you very much for doing what you can to promote the show, to let folks know that it's out there. Thanks to all of you and your retweets and your shares and your mentions. We've now been picked up on more networks than I can count. Considering this all started with little old me and a crazy idea, I never really thought it was going to get as big as it is now. And now the interesting thing is, I thought there would be a point where it would kind of go, yeah, this far, no further. You know, kind of like that whole Gandalf on the bridge thing. You shall not pass. You know, I kind of thought we would get to one of those points where it got as big as it was going to get and it couldn't go any further. And every time I turn around, there's more people contacting me to both be on the station. They're contacting me to put more of not only my content, but the other content that we have here everywhere. And it's just, it's become such a great, big thing. And I just want to thank everybody that's not only a part of it here at K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network, but all of you that tune in every single day. Because I know you're out there because you tweet me all the time. And I really want to appreciate the fact that there are so many of you now that interact with the shows both in the chat room. Speaking of which, Bad Host Monkey, not usually very good about being in the chat room. One of these days I'll actually be able to afford to pay somebody to produce, and then I can hang out in the chat and talk to you folks while I'm talking instead of having to push all the buttons. But I digress. Now, other big announcements, fingers crossed, it looks like we have a good shot at being placed on WNJC 1360 out of Philadelphia, which is an actual FCC licensed regulated call lettered station. We are going to start running the show as if it were already there, in the hopes that soon it will be, and I don't want to make everybody do a bunch of extra work and extra bleeps and cuts and everything else. So from now on, I will have to watch my language as best I can. You know, there are going to be times when it's going to slip out, and I'll just do what I can to make sure that the ones that I send over to them don't have the F-bombs and the fecal matters and the GDs and everything else, because Lord knows there are times when I really get going. So, also, another reason I'm making this change is I have actually been notified by some listeners that occasionally I have a few children that listen to this show. So out of respect to parents who don't possibly want to explain to their children why a radio show that they're listening to, why the host can occasionally cuss like a sailor on shore leave, I'm just going to start watching my mouth a little better. So, now, all of that being said, the title of the episode for today is The Candidates 2016. We're going to talk about some candidates that maybe you haven't heard much from, thanks to the Snarknado, formerly known as Trump, that is basically making a whirlwind out of this 2016 presidential run-up. And I've spent a lot of time talking both about Trump, telling you what I think about him. I mean, I don't know. I'm on the fence when it comes to the guy. I like what he says sometimes. And I like how he says it, because he just tells you exactly what he thinks and doesn't care what you think about what he says. That can both be really good and really bad. But so today, instead of going off on the Trump tangent, because I've noticed I've been doing that a lot lately, I don't know, maybe it's the hair. I mean, dude, have you seen all the little pictures floating around everywhere? There's like a car driving around now with a big freaking Trump hair-colored toupee all over the top of it and says, "This just in, Donald Trump driving himself to campaign stops." And, you know, and then there's the one with him and the treasure troll. Who wore it better, Trump or the troll? I don't know. I'm not answering that question, but yeah, I thought that was kind of cute. But so anyway, so today what we're going to be talking about are some of the candidates that nobody's really heard too much about. And then, of course, when we close it out, I do have a clip that we were going to play yesterday that I never got back around to, which is a clip from the Cashin' In crew and their take on Trump. So we'll probably close out the show with that one. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and start giving you some of the folks that you haven't probably heard very much out of lately, because nobody's really paying attention to anybody other than Trump. So on the list for tonight are clips from Carly Fiorina, Marco Rubio, Rick Perry, and then, of course, we will close out with something from the Cashin' In folks. And also Rick Santorum. I don't think I mentioned him. I had to throw him on the list. He's the wife's fave, so, you know, I'm trying to score some brownie points, man. Don't judge. All right, so anyway, let's go ahead and play him first just to get him out of the way, because, yeah, he's not my favorite, but we'll play him anyway.
Rick Santorum represented the state of Pennsylvania in the U.S. House of Representatives from 1991 to 1995 and the U.S. Senate from 1995 to 2007.
Senator, should the federal government subsidize any economic sector, and if so, which ones?
I don't think we should be subsidizing, but we have to make sure that our economic sectors are competitive. One of the things I announced for president on the factory floor in western Pennsylvania, talking about if we're going to restore the great center of America, we've got to get Americans back to work who haven't been working, haven't been rising. You saw just this past quarter, 0.2% wage growth. And if you look at where that the wage growth has really stagnated, it's the 74% of Americans between the age of 25 and 65 who don't have a college degree, who don't have manufacturing jobs to go to anymore. We had 20 million manufacturing jobs when Ronald Reagan was president. We're down to 11 million. If you look at that line, it's going straight down. If we don't allow our country to be competitive with the rest of the world, we're going to continue to see that decline, and there really is no hope for the folks who are struggling the most. That's why I put our campaign square on. We are going to make manufacturing competitive. We're going to put out a flat tax that'll have a transition period for manufacturing. We'll start out at a zero rate. We'll go back to everybody else's rate. We want to incentivize that money to come into this country. We want to have repatriation to cut it to 5%, again, to bring that money here so we can invest in capital equipment, expensing instead of depreciation, again, to incentivize manufacturing.
Flat tax for individuals?
For everybody.
What percentage?
20%.
Rand Paul's proposed 14.5%.
Well, yeah, he also has a VAT tax, but I don't. I have a income tax, a corporate tax, all 20%.
Speaking of the economy, in New Hampshire, if someone maxes out on public assistance, experts tell me that's about $14 an hour someone if they max out on public assistance, and they may well need that. Massachusetts, south of the border, maybe $20. How do you incentivize Americans who are on public assistance to go back to work?
Well, you're talking to the guy who led the welfare reform charge. I drafted the bill when I was in the House. 1996, I managed the bill on the floor of the Senate. We wanted to do two things in welfare, and we worked with the governors to get that done. We put time limits, and we put a work requirement. We did a great job. We eliminated the only federal entitlement program that's ever been eliminated. We did that. I did that. I was the leader of that. And we should have done it for SNAP. We should have done it for the other means-tested entitlement programs. We didn't. Next door here, Governor LePage has done that and seen a dramatic result of that, a reduction in benefits. But it has to be a 1-2 punch. We've got to create jobs. We've got to create jobs for these folks who want to work but just don't have good enough paying jobs with benefits to motivate them to get off of these welfare programs. So it's a combination of manufacturing and putting time limits and work requirements on welfare.
Do you believe this president and this administration truly want real border security?
I don't think this administration is serious about border security or serious about protecting working men and women. In the last 20 years, 35 million people have come into this country legally and illegally. Now, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. But the reality is wages for those workers I've been talking about have been flatlined for 20 years. We have never seen such decrepit wage growth. And who are the 90% of the people who are coming in legally and illegally? Almost all unskilled workers. To compete against our hardworking men and women who want a chance to succeed, but we're not giving it to them. I'm the only person in this race that has called for not just securing the border, following up on the visas, imposing E-Verify, but calling for a 25% reduction in the unskilled labor that's coming into this country. It is a serious problem. Everyone else is dancing around it. I'm going to stand for the American worker.
Briefly, Senator, how should we deal with employers who hire illegal immigrants or aliens?
E-Verify has to be universal, and employees, both current and future employees, have to comply with it.
You run before. You glad you made the decision to do it again?
It's been it was a tremendous opportunity last time around. This time around, it's actually better because last time everybody was trying to say we were more conservative than Mitt Romney. This time you're actually talking about issues and how we're going to help this country, and that's a good thing.
Thank you, Senator.
Thanks.
All right, so I have to admit, I liked some of what he said there. Again, he's not really still my first choice. I am a big proponent of either a flat tax or a fair tax. I think we need to do away with this monstrosity known as the IRS for multiple reasons. As you can see, it's now been abused in two separate administrations, at least that we know of. There's proof in two separate administrations, both a conservative and a liberal administration, that the IRS was used for crappy things. And I think that is very, very bad. I think the IRS have become a government protectorate squad, so to speak, where, because nobody wants to be approached by the IRS, much less audited or anything else. So it's become a control thing, and both sides do it, and that's the bad thing. Both sides do it. Now, I've never seen it done quite like it has been during this last administration, that we are still watching slowly implode, and we'll actually probably talk about that some on Friday. I have some stuff I've been putting together about the Iran deal that I haven't had a chance to get to. So I think that since we have the debates coming up, I think the next couple of shows I'll kind of be focusing on giving you guys maybe a little bit of information about the candidates that nobody's talking about before the debates. And then, of course, the day of the debates, since part of it will have happened before I get here, I'm hoping to get some of that audio so that we can kind of talk about it and give you my take on it. And then, of course, we'll be watching the debates. That will be during JD and Stacy's show, so I'm hoping that we can find a way to get some of that stuff piped over to them so that they can use it, but we'll see. Now, back to Santorum. Like I said, I like some of what he said. I'm a proponent of some sort of either a flat tax or a fair tax. I think one of the things that we honestly need to do is set it to where if you are below a certain amount of money, you don't have to pay any taxes. And with today's technology, there are ways to do that, because if we get it to the point where it is basically a flat tax and it's treated like a sales tax, then basically what happens is when you go to the grocery store, when you start checking out, you swipe a card and it verifies that by government standards you are below the poverty line, so therefore you are exempt from paying taxes on all items. At least as far as the government, the federal flat tax goes. The cities and states can do whatever they normally do with their sales tax, but the federal tax, as far as I'm concerned, if you're below poverty, you should be exempt from that. For several different reasons. I think we've been looking at some of this stuff the wrong way. And I have to admit, I've been guilty of it too. The issue is, we need to do a lot of what he talked about here. We should still have safety net programs for the people that can't work. We need those things. But for the people that can work, maybe they can work, but they've taken some major hits to their self-esteem, so they can't even get themselves out of bed during the day. Do I think that they shouldn't be getting their butts out of bed, pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, and finding a way to get a job? Well, no, that's exactly what I think they should be doing. But why can't we help them do that? Let's put a work requirement in with their food stamps. If you are able to work, if we're giving you X amount of dollars to feed you, yourself, or your family, then when you have the ability to, even if it's late at night on a computer, we're going to have you take some courses to teach you things that you need to know. There are ways to do this stuff now. You don't even have to go to a campus anymore to go to school. I mean, if we're going to be giving people food, clothing, and shelter anyway, can we not do it in a way where we don't make them dependent on the food, clothing, and the shelter? Oh, wait, but we can't do that because if we fix the problem, we won't need the government. You know, it's amazing how many times it comes back to that when you really stop and think about it. There are ways to fix everything that is wrong. But nobody in the government honestly, truly wants us to fix it because if we fixed it, we wouldn't need them as much. Because the simple fact of the matter is there are ways to make all of these programs hands up, or help up, not hands out. Sorry, I almost went into the whole hands up, don't shoot thing. That's a story for another day. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I like mainly what he said about the taxes. I think a lot of what he said about the workfare program, I think that is a great idea. I think it never should have stopped. I think we have way too many people that are getting approved for things way too easily now when there are things that they can do. Even if you're sedentary, you can find jobs. If you can get yourself up long enough to get yourself into a hover round, there's no way that you can't find a job that you can do somewhere. That's part of the problem, and Bryce and I talked about this the other day. The American dream is not dead. You just have to work your butt off to get there. You have to put in the long hours. You have to work more than one job if you want to be able to say, I did this and I built this and I made this. You have to be willing to put in 20-hour days. You have to be willing to go without sleep. You have to be willing to eat cheap food when you can't afford to buy anything else because every spare dime you get is being sunk back into a dream. There are several different ways that you can get to what is considered the American dream, but not a single one of them can be achieved without hard work. And that is what we have lost here in this country. That is what I'm hoping one of these candidates brings to the table when they're talking during the debates, whether it's during the lower-ranking debate during the day or the primetime debate in the evening. I want someone to outline to me how they are going to fix this country. I want them to tell us articulately what it is that they are going to do and how they're going to do it. And then, my God, if we give them the chance to do it, I want them to do it. Because I don't know about you, but I'm so tired of all of these people that tell us what we want to hear to get us to pull a lever. Yes, I'm talking to you, Boner. Yes, I'm talking to you, McConnell. All you little blowhards and knee-jerk idiots that tell everybody that's a conservative what they need to hear so they'll pull the lever for you, and then you let your troll side come back out again, and all of a sudden it's, mwahaha. What? We didn't, what? Defund Planned Parenthood? No, why would we do that? Stop Obamacare? No, we don't want to stop Obamacare. We want to make it McConnell care. Mwahaha. Okay, so I'm having a little bit of fun, but still, I mean, look, it really is that simple. And actually, you know, somebody says this much better than I do, and this is somebody that I think should be getting a lot more press. So I'm probably going to start finding clips of this particular woman and start playing it as often as I can, because I think she has some good points. And so at this point, without further ado, here's a clip from Ms. Carly Fiorina.
Carly Fiorina, the former CEO of Hewlett-Packard, was the first woman to lead a Fortune 50 business.
It's kind of a personal but a professional question. You've been in both, well, you've run for office, but you were top 50 CEO. I've had you on my show. You've talked a lot about your business background, humble start. But one of our people who submitted this wants to know, what's the least popular action you've taken as a leader? And what did you learn from it?
Well, if I may just start by saying thank you, St. Anselm's, for hosting this, and thank you, Joe McQuaid, as well, for reminding the political class that we don't have a national primary and managing to get all of the candidates here to the first in the nation primary state. Thank you for doing that. I think one of the most difficult decisions you have as a leader is to challenge the status quo, whatever the status quo is. The status quo in any system, in a business, in a bureaucracy, and especially in Washington, D.C., is powerful because people who have benefited from the status quo want to preserve the status quo. And so when you challenge the status quo, when you say, you know what, this problem has been festering for too long and we're going to finally fix it, or these folks have been in charge for too long, we've been talking about this for too long, we're going to fix it. The truth is, 80% of the American people now think we have a professional political class that is liking the status quo, and we have festering problems. Our budget gets bigger and bigger every year for 40 years. We've been talking a lot today about illegal immigration. How long have we been talking about the border being insecure? 30 years. How long have we known it was insecure? 30 years. How long has it been insecure? 30 years. We talk a lot at election time, but somehow we never solve these festering problems. It's because the status quo is in charge. Leaders challenge the status quo.
Least popular action you took, though, as a leader?
I think the least popular actions are when you have to say to people, we can't afford to do this anymore. And Lord knows we need to do that in Washington, D.C.
Can you win with that message?
Of course. People understand. Honestly, our government has gotten bigger and bigger every year for almost 50 years. You have to invest in those things that are priority, securing the border, helping people who truly need help, and you need to quit spending money where you're wasting money. And we are wasting hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars every year. And by the way, we know where it is, because there are reports that come out every year. They land like a thud on Congress's desks, and literally nothing happens.
Former First Lady Hillary Clinton, I've noticed you've been a very strong and steady critic of Hillary Clinton. She's going to be testifying, I believe, coming up in a few months on Benghazi, maybe the emails. Do you think those are political inconveniences for the former First Lady, or are there bigger issues that the American people need to know about, and are there any potential illegal worries that you have on the email server or anything else?
I think Hillary Clinton thinks they are political inconveniences. That's what she gives off. But they are far more than that. She lied about Benghazi. They knew it was a purposeful terrorist attack on the anniversary of 9/11. She went to the American people and talked some fiction about a videotape. She stood over the bodies of the fallen. She has as well lied about her servers and the kinds of information she had on her server and why she kept everything on a single device. These go to the core of her character. But here's the thing. In order to beat Hillary Clinton or whoever their nominee turns out to be, we have to have a nominee on our side who is going to throw every punch, because this is a fight. It's a fight for the future of this nation. It's a fight for the character of this nation. And unfortunately, we know that sometimes the right questions don't get asked in a presidential debate.
Should Planned Parenthood receive federal taxpayer funding?
Absolutely not. This is about the character, the moral character of our nation. It's not about whether you're pro-choice or pro-life. Just as taking care of people who need our care is part of the moral fiber of our nation as well.
Thank you. Look forward to the next round. Thank you.
All right. So, again, somebody that I think we should be listening to and we haven't heard very much about, thanks to the media firestorm that is the Snarknado. Most of what she said there is not only true, but very, very accurate. A lot of us are tired of the status quo. We're tired of the fact that this election system is broken. Nobody wants to admit it, but it's broken. What we do is we give one side a chance because we basically buy into whatever they're selling us, and we say, okay, well, we've given this side a chance long enough and nothing's changed, so let's give this other side a chance and see if something changes. Anybody remember the 2008 run-up, Hope and Change? All the kids singing about President Obama and how great that he was going to be. The fact that even during his victory speech, he started talking about the fact that this was the night that the tides would start receding, that everything would start changing. It seems like we've gotten to the point where we only feed the egos of the people that entertain us. We don't want good leaders anymore. We want people that entertain us. And that scares me. We have become so accustomed to reality TV that now we treat the election cycle like it's some ginormous long-run reality TV series. So the more entertaining and the more crazy it is, the more likely we are to listen to the people that are saying the things that we don't necessarily need to hear, but we want to hear them because, by God, it's fun to get angry, to get worked up. I mean, come on. Let's be honest. We've all got a lot of frustration, especially those of us that feel like the country's going in the wrong direction. So when we have somebody like Trump stand up and tell people exactly what he thinks, a lot of folks are grabbing onto that with both hands and not letting go. But we're missing some actual people that could truly make a difference. And I don't honestly think Donald Trump is one. I'm not picking on him. I've never met him personally. If he wants to come on and tell me exactly how it is that he thinks he can make this country a better place, then I am more than willing to give him the entire hour or even a 2 or 3 part show if that's what he wants to do, to line out what it is that he thinks he can do to make a difference. But let me tell you what I think. I think the reason he's gotten so much attention is because we've gotten used to reality TV. The more outlandish things are on reality TV, the more we pay attention to them. So now the more outlandish things we have going on during an election, we pay attention to them. And nobody's talking about the candidates that honestly matter, because let's look at Trump's track record. Can we just do that for a moment? I know I said I wasn't going to talk about him today, but I promise I'm about to go to break. When I come back, I'll get back on topic. But this is important because we need to look at his track record. How many times has he said he was going to do this? How many times has he made it all the way through? Do you really think this time is going to be any different? He had to step up his game to get the people's attention like he had them 4 years ago. At some point, he's going to step aside and he's going to take all the publicity that he built up and he's going to turn it towards one of his businesses that he hasn't told anybody about yet, and it's going to become an overnight success. Much like probably what happened in 2012. I don't know. I'm sure there was, because like I said, I know he was doing it for publicity then. I think he's doing it for publicity now. And I think because of that, we need to be very careful that we do not buy everything that he's selling. Another thing that concerns me about Donald Trump, and I have said it before and I will say it again, a lot of the folks that he interacts with on social media are not exactly the type of people that a presidential candidate should be interacting with. And that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, so as promised, I did say I wasn't going to say too much about Trump today. So let me go ahead and take a break so I can get back to the main topic so you guys don't hear my head start trying not to explode. All right, we'll be back here in just a couple minutes. We got to pay some bills. Don't go anywhere. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson. We've still got lots of show left.
Red Nation Rising brings you Town Hall Radio.
From a single tweet to 3 million a month, our community is a force to be reckoned with on social media.
So don't miss our show, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on K98 Talk.
Our chat room is our co-host, and you ask the question.
Join us and be heard.
So get ready to sound off on Red Nation Rising Radio. No one else is going to do it for you.
There's a wild, wild whisper blowing in the wind, calling out my name like a long lost friend.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members, of their families or their children, asking them to deploy, patrol, stay on watch, on point, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to bring them all the way home, to keep them secure, to have their backs for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs do whatever it takes to help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Find out how you can help at findwwp.org.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberty conservative,
where no one is safe and no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Calls, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, bless you, pray to Jesus Christ. The blessings in our pockets.
All right, we're back. We're live. This is America Off the Rails. I'm your host, Rick Robinson, and we're going to go ahead and put the Snarknado to bed for the rest of the show. I promise I won't talk about him anymore. Now, so far we've heard from, we've played Santorum. We've heard a little bit from Carly Fiorina. Again, I agree with a lot of what she said, and I thought it was rather important that we focus on something else she said, not just the bit about the status quo. We've known the border has been broken for how many years? We haven't done anything about it. But the problem is they don't want to do anything about it. The liberals want immigration for one reason. The folks that call themselves conservative want it for another, and I don't know. I'm done calling it immigration. It's not immigration. It's immigration if you do it the right way. It's immigration if you do it the right way, and we have way too many people that do it the wrong way. And actually, I think that's a pretty good segue into the next clip that I definitely want to play, which is from Marco Rubio. And actually, I think he addresses the very thing that I just said. So it's another reason why it kind of worked out to be a good segue.
Senator Marco Rubio also joining us live from C-SPAN. Senator, good evening. Should medical marijuana be a narrowly written law, or is it okay to have conflicting laws in certain states?
I don't support the legalization of marijuana. I understand that individual states are going through the debate of its use for medicinal purposes. I know in Florida that debate's ongoing. And as long as it truly is for medicinal purposes, and even at the national level, goes through, for example, the FDA process that any other medicine would have to go through, that's something I'm willing to explore. What I do not support is the legalization of marijuana or any other additional intoxicant. This country is already paying a significant price for illegal use of drugs and even alcohol, which is legal. You talk about New Hampshire for a moment. One of the stories that has not been as reported nationally is the fact that many of the people who today that are dependent on heroin are because they became dependent on prescription opiates. And when it became difficult to acquire those prescription opiates through the pharmacy system, they unfortunately became hooked on opium and heroin in the streets as a result of it. And so I'm not in support of any additional intoxicants being legalized, something like marijuana. For medicinal purposes, if it underwent an FDA process and it was truly designed to be used as medicine, not as a way to get high, that's something I would be willing to explore.
Senator Rubio, if elected president, what would your policy be for the undocumented aliens in the United States already? Some would say we can't realistically get rid of 11.
Well, I'm glad you asked that.
Go ahead.
That's right. Yes. So, first of all, this is an issue that everyone agrees what we have today on immigration doesn't work for America. I don't think anyone would disagree, for the most part, that it needs to be fixed. But it cannot be fixed in one massive, comprehensive piece of legislation. There is only one way forward on this, and it will require 3 steps, and they have to happen in the following sequence. First, we have to prove to the American people that illegal immigration is under control. It's not good enough to just say we're going to pass a law that will bring it under control. People demand to see it. They want to see the fence completed. They want to see more border agents. They want to see more drones and cameras and ground sensors. But they also recognize that over 40% of the people in this country illegally entered legally and overstayed a visa. And that's why we need an electronic verification system that employers must comply with, or they will be heavily fined. And that's why we need an entry-exit biometric system at our seaports and airports, so that we know when people are overstaying visas and we can identify them. That is the key that unlocks the ability to make progress on anything else when it comes to immigration. Once we have done that, the second step would be to modernize our legal immigration system. We are the most generous country in the world on immigration. We admit 1 million people a year legally to the United States, but we do so primarily on the basis of whether or not they have a relative living here. We cannot afford to do it that way anymore. In the 21st century, legal immigration must be based on merit, on what you can contribute economically. Basically, whether you are coming to be an American as opposed to simply live in America. Once we've done those two things, I believe there is a reasonable way to address the fact that you have 12 million people living in this country or more who are illegally here but have been here for a long time. And they will have to pass a background check. They will have to pay a fine. They will have to start paying taxes. They will have to learn English. And then in exchange for that, what they will get is a work permit that allows them to legally work in the United States and travel. And that's all they will have for an extended period of time. And then at some point in the future, we could have a further conversation about whether they're allowed to apply for a green card. But that is the only way forward on illegal immigration at this point in this country.
Senator, finally, how would you assess the mood or morale of America and Americans? It seems to me that we're a tired nation. The economy is not growing. The budget and the deficits are mounting. We have threats abroad. How and why is America where it's at right now, and what's the reason for it? How do we get fired up and feel good about the future for all generations of Americans?
That's actually
Go ahead.
That's actually the fundamental question of this election. This nation is at a pivotal moment in its history. The world around us is changing, and we need to decide what kind of country we will be in the 21st century. The reason why people feel so insecure in their economic lives is because our economy has rapidly changed. Today we live in a country where the largest retailer, Amazon, doesn't own a single store, where the largest hospitality company, Airbnb, doesn't own a single hotel room, where the largest ground transportation company, Uber, doesn't even own a single car. We also live in a world that's rapidly changing. China's taking over the South China Sea. Russia's threatening the unity of Europe and NATO. Iran is on the verge of acquiring not just a nuclear weapon, but as Senator Cruz pointed out, the ability to deliver it to the United States. And radical jihadists have now spread across multiple continents across the world, and some are even located here within the United States. The result of all these changes is it makes people feel insecure because they recognize that the old ways of doing things no longer work. But no one has outlined the way forward in the 21st century. What we need now are leaders that understand this new era, that have clear ideas, as I have offered, about how to modernize our economic policies to fully benefit from all the opportunities of the new economy, and also ideas about how to restore not just American prestige in the world, but our military power, our ability to stand with our allies, and our ability to anticipate crisis before it develops and threatens the safety of our people.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate that. We need to move on.
All right. So as I said, Rubio actually kind of addresses part of what my concerns are when it comes to immigration. We need to modify the way that we do immigration. And with today's technology, there's no reason that we can't modify how we handle immigration. The reason we can't is because we won't. It's that simple. We can try to make sure that, because here's the thing. I understand the Statue of Liberty has a quote. Everybody talks about it. Anytime I start talking about how we need to have different immigration policies, all the liberals come out of the woodwork and start saying, well, what happened to give us you're tired, you're hungry, you're poor, you're huddled masses? What happened is the tired, the hungry, and the poor from other countries were still their best and brightest when they came here. We don't get the best and brightest anymore. Trump may have stuck his foot in his mouth with the way he said it, but what he said was true. We do not have the best and the brightest of other countries coming through our southern border. We have the dregs of other societies because they don't want them in their own, and they know that we have an open border. For God's sake, the Mexican government prints out pamphlets that tells people exactly how to get across our border and exactly what services to apply for when they get here. But nobody wants to talk about how broken the border is. And I know that I have lots of libertarians that listen to the show, and some of you right now are feeling like your head is going to explode. I'm sorry, I don't buy into the open borders argument. We cannot sustain an open border in our current situation. We have to fix what's broken if we ever want to try to do anything as crazy as an open border concept in this country. And I'm sorry, I said it exactly as I feel about it. That is a crazy concept. We already have completely open borders. We don't restrict people when they move between states. All we ask is if you're going to be here that you register as a visitor, you stay until your visa expires, and then you leave. If you want to come here, then follow the process. Now, that being said, I know the process is broken. But again, they don't want it fixed. Because if it was fixed, they wouldn't have anything to get you all ginned up about when it comes to election time. Because it doesn't matter which side of the argument you're on. Your side feeds whichever argument you want to hear. Whichever one you agree with, that's the argument you're gonna listen to, and you'll be the one that picks up either the red or the blue banner and starts touting the rhetoric. I'm tired of the rhetoric. It's why I started all of this, is because I'm tired of the arguing and the infighting and the backstabbing, whether it's from politicians or media or even among ourselves. It is time to put that stuff to bed. We're done if we don't. This country is falling apart. If you do not believe me, then take a really hard look at race relations right now. I spoke to someone today who told me that and this was a conversation, and he told me he was concerned, and this was an African-American individual who told me that he was concerned because in today's climate, he didn't want to do anything that would cause him to be considered out of line because of the way that the police, in his words, are treating his fellow African Americans. And you want to tell me that this country's not broken? We have allowed ourselves to be categorized, divided, split up, and put in little bitty labels. So much, so badly, that we don't identify with anybody anymore unless they have the same label. I've said it before, and I will say it again. The simple fact of the matter is labels don't matter. It doesn't matter to me if you're Native American. Doesn't matter to me if you're African American. Doesn't matter to me if you're Mexican American. Doesn't matter to me if you're Chinese American. Doesn't matter to, what should I have said, Hispanic American? Sorry, I'm pretty sure somebody's eyes were rolling right then. But the whole point is, we are Americans. If you came here and you followed the process and you did it the right way, then by God, you are an American. If you didn't, then you need to pack up, go back across the border you came from, and do it the right way. Until we get our system fixed, this is the only system that we have. And I am so tired of seeing all these memes that pop up all the time about with pictures of Native Americans holding rifles and says the original Homeland Security since 1492. Do you guys not realize that's half the reason why we have the things in place that we have now, was to try to protect the populations that are here? Because we actually give a damn? Because we look back on our history and say, that wasn't necessarily one of our best times. Maybe we should put laws in place from now on to make sure that type of stuff can't happen again. To make sure that there are procedures when one wants to come into this country, and ways that we can verify what it is that they're wanting to do and why they're wanting to be here. But because we don't want people to just come in here whenever the hell they want to, all of a sudden we are racist. Well, let me tell you what's racist. All of you idiots, that anytime anybody wants to start talking about the fact that we need immigration reform, but don't want to realize that part of us, that a lot of us think the same thing as you, that we need immigration reform, but we just want the border addressed first. Because until we get the border problems addressed, we cannot fix the other problem. If we can get the border to the point where it's not basically just allowing people to come through like a sieve, then at that point we could address modernizing the immigration process, using technology that wasn't around when it was first envisioned to do things exactly like a couple of these folks have talked about. As in, biometric scanners at the borders, fingerprints, facial recognition, those type of things. So we know exactly who's coming across and who they are before they ever get here. I mean, how is this hard? Except for the fact that they don't honestly want it fixed. A lot of people get mad at me because I say that, and I say it often. But it's the truth. The government doesn't want your problems fixed. Whatever your problems are, they want you to have them. They want you to keep them. They want you to dwell on them. They want you to focus on them. Because if you're focusing on everything that is wrong in your life, you don't notice what they're doing to you when you're not paying attention because you're too busy focused on your life. This is why they want things broken. As long as they are broken, they can get us to fight amongst ourselves. They can get us to not pay attention to things like NAFTA, the thing that everybody said, hey, no, don't worry about it. It's good for the country. 2 days later, jobs everywhere, gone. North American trade deal, North Korean trade deal. That was supposed to be good for the country too. What happened with that one? I'll tell you what happened with that one. We got hosed. Now we have TPA passed by a conservative House and a conservative Senate that basically just handed this president more authority than he's ever had and never should have had. And you guys want to get mad at me because I tell you every day that I talk to you that the biggest problem with our government is, one, they are the problem, and two, they don't want things fixed, because if they did, they would fix them, because they can. They just choose not to. Alright, so we're down to a couple of minutes, and I at least want to get this last clip in, because I thought this was, I don't know, it's Rick Perry. Again, never really been one of my favorites, but hey, I'm doing my job. I'm letting you guys hear some stuff from the candidates so you can figure out who you want to listen to tomorrow. I'm sorry, it's not tomorrow, it's Thursday. For some reason, I keep thinking today's Wednesday. Wishful thinking, I guess.
State of Texas from 2000 to 2015.
Governor, thanks so much. We received thousands of responses from voters in our 3 states and around the country, but our 3 states focusing here tonight. We asked them what was most important to them. The number one issues facing voters here in New Hampshire, Iowa, and South Carolina. Topping the list, immigration and the economy. Governor, what would your administration's policy be toward illegal immigrants already in the U.S.?
Well, the real issue for us in this country today is what's happening all across our great land, and that is the cost that illegal immigration is having on this state. And until we get that border secure, it's not going to stop. It's like a serious wound. You want to staunch the flow. And that's not what's happening in this country now. For 30 years, we've heard people talk about, well, if we'll deal with this immigration, this illegal immigration issue, if we'll reform it, then we'll secure the border. And now we're in plus 30 years of that. The American people don't trust Washington, D.C. to deal with this issue of immigration reform until we secure the border. And I know a little something about securing the border. As a matter of fact, last summer I looked in the President's eye when he came to Dallas, Texas, and I said, Mr. President, if you don't secure the border, Texas will. And that's exactly what we did. We sent our Department of Public Safety, our Texas Rangers, our Parks and Wildlife Wardens, putting them literally in the river. And we also deployed our Texas National Guard. And because of that effort, we saw a 74% decrease in the number of apprehensions that were occurring in that part of the border. You can secure the border. It takes boots on the ground. It takes the security fencing in the metropolitan areas, and you have aviation assets. And I'm talking about from Tijuana to El Paso to Brownsville, flying 24/7, looking down with the technology to be able to see what's going on and identifying where there's activities that are obviously illegal or suspicious and fast response team. That's what you have to do. I know how to secure that border. If you elect me President of the United States, I will promise you one thing: the will to secure that border will reside in the Oval Office.
Governor, I want to stick with immigration, as many of our voters are concerned. So much is made of illegal immigration. Until we get a handle on that, should we reduce the number of green cards granted legally each year to folks wanting to get into this country through the legal process? Should we cut down that number, and what should that number be each year?
Well, I think we need to be smart about our immigration. And the agency that we have today can't even keep up with people that come into the country. When you give a visa and they overstay it and we don't know where they are. I mean, Bobby, we know that they can find a package halfway around the world with UPS, and we can't keep up with the people that have overstayed their visas. I mean, for crying out loud, that agency is broken. You need to fix that agency of government that deals with these individuals that are coming in here. Be thoughtful about what is the workforce that we need. Allow the people in this country that we need in this country, and those that have overstayed their visas, you go find them, you pick them up, and you send them back wherever they're from.
But should we reduce the number temporarily of legal?
I don't know whether we need to reduce the number or not until we're able to find out, who these people are that are in the country illegally. That's the real challenge, and if we get that taken care of first, then we can make a smart decision about whether or not we do or we don't need to have more visas being handed out.
George Will recently said on my radio show the biggest problem facing the next president is an economy with a 2% GDP. If you're elected president, how can you make Washington and this country grow again at something greater than 2%?
Well, it's one of the reasons I'm a little bit more than just a passable expert on that, because the state of Texas created more jobs than anybody in this room over the course of the time that I was the governor. 1/3 of all the jobs that were created in America occurred while I was the governor of the state of Texas. And we did it by having smart policies in place, tax policies that let you keep more of what you work for, a regulatory climate that is fair and predictable, legal system that didn't allow for oversuing, and public school policies that basically were accountable, that said to these businesses, you're going to find a skilled workforce in that state. And the way you do that in America is inextricably intertwined to our energy policy, a North American energy policy. I will suggest to you, Canada, the United States, Mexico has more known resources than of Russia and Saudi Arabia. Drive down the electric cost, put those regulations into place that drive the income tax down, and you can create a renaissance in manufacturing like we've never seen.
Time. Thank you, Governor Perry. Thank you.
Jack, thank you.
All right, so even he mentioned, the biometric things at the border. I have to admit I was a little concerned when he started talking about North American alliances for energy. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know where I am with Perry. One of the things that I would have done if I were him, I probably would have told them, as far as I'm concerned, until we get the border closed, we need to drop the number of visas that we're issuing by at least 10% a year. Maybe that'll cause somebody to get off their butts and fix something. All right, so I guess that's where we're actually probably going to go ahead and leave things for tonight. Now, coming up here in just a moment, actually starting at the right time this week, because I completely dropped the ball last week, we'll have the Graceland radio show hosted by Jennifer Meadows on its new regular time here Tuesdays at 7 Central, 8 Eastern, and then, of course, right after that, we have The Right Angle with Bill and Leslie. And for tonight, unfortunately, I don't normally do this, but I want to say this. One of the hosts of Game On was recently involved in a car accident. They're not doing very well. So I'm not going to mention which one it is. Those of you that know them well enough will know who it is. I just ask that for those of you that listen, because I know you listen to them too, take a moment, put that person in your thoughts this evening. Just reach out to them. Just let them know that they are cared about, because it's bad enough that they're doing a replay tonight. That's all I know. But anyway, so at this point, we are going to go ahead and get out of here for the night. I will be back with you guys tomorrow, right here live, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, and all over the web at a lot of other times. So many so that we're actually about to start putting together a website. But I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. And it's coming soon, the America Off the Rails website, so you guys can figure out where all you can find me. Because at this point, half the time, even I can't keep up. Hang on, before I forget, quick shout out to the affiliates because I realized I didn't do that today. High Point Radio out of New Jersey. Also, AMFM247.com, Red State Talk Radio, where the show can be heard every Sunday. Leading Edge Radio Network, which is now airing us in the mornings, and I think, actually, I almost forgot one. SHR Media. See, told you, I can't keep up anymore. All right, so we're out of here, folks. Have a good night.
Everything you earn by breaking your back, we're gonna redistribute when we make our big tax. Hey, sit down. Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.